Welcome to Mean Age Daydream with me, Brian McWilliams, where we're going to be making some jokes, laughing out at broken world, but also laying out some philosophy for the future, how we can fix this mess we're in and have a great time doing it all with a Mean Age Daydream. What's up, buttercups? Welcome to Mean Age Daydream with me, your bald and beautiful host, Brian McWilliams. Bald, beautiful, and just somewhat nauseous recently. I forgot. I made myself a nice green tea because it was a long weekend. And of course, my kids have both been sick alternately. And I'm desperately trying to fight off getting sick once again from these animals. So I'm drinking this green tea. I'm talking to a client this morning. And like halfway through the conversation, I realized that, oh, yeah, if I drink green tea and I've not had a lot to eat, I get unbelievably nauseous. So I'm just nodding along with my client, trying not to throw up in my own mouth. And that's how we'll start the show today, guys. We're nodding along. We're trying not to throw up in our own mouths with a lot of things that are going on in our society, in our politics. And we're going to break them down. One of the things that we're definitely going to talk about today is the hilarious, and I mean, frankly, I don't even have a problem with it because it's so funny and it's not going to work, but the hilarious trend of women, American women, going online and shaving their heads. And this is, I guess, stolen from a movement in Korea called the 4Bs movement. And theirs was to protest domestic violence in Korea on men versus women. However, in this country, because Donald Trump and because progressive women have been convinced by a lying media, by a lying Democratic Party, that all their rights will be taken away as women, despite the fact that Donald Trump is now appointed or will be appointing the very first chief of staff that's a female, as well as many other women in his cabinet positions, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. Well, they've been convinced that the world is coming to an end, that the abortions will be illegal nationally, something that was never said by Trump or Vance, something that the Democrats claimed he would do, something that the media parroted again because they're lying hacks. Well, these people are losing their minds. And apparently, because they're losing their minds, they have to shave their heads in protest. Mike says, Brian, what's going on with you? You're sick more than a cancer patient? No. Look, anybody who has two small children knows they get sick all the time and then they get you sick. I'm not the only one. Listen to Dave Smith talk about it too. He's got kids roughly the same age as mine. It's just the way of the world. Although I'm taking new supplements, which I think are helping. All right. So back on track here. Let's talk about this movement. But before we do, I want to remind you, you can go to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty, support the show, support Secrets, Lies, and Cover-Ups, our show about conspiracies. You can listen to the morning rants that I do called Good Morning F-Head. I'll try not to say curses too early to not adjust the impact the algorithm. You can listen to Degenerate Gamblers, where we tell stories and give our gambling picks for the week. And of course, much, much more. Patreon.com/Lions of Liberty or lionsofliberty.locals.com. And don't forget, even if you don't want our content, you can just support us because you want us to keep doing the show. That's also very helpful, by the way. It lets us know that you care. Okay. So this movement, I laughed. I mean, good gut laughing, good chuckles, like Christmas is around the corner, guys. I was laughing my ever-loving ass off watching these chicks get their head shaved. By the way, in every video I saw, they had their head being shaved by some pathetic beta male, I presume is their cuckolded husband, helping to shave their heads. Half of these women are crying in the video, and they're committing to shave their heads and not have sex because they have to punish the young men who dared to vote for Donald Trump. Now, as I said, there is literally nothing that has been said or changed in the Donald Trump, J.D. Vance platform or combination of the two of them getting the presidency that says anything with abortion will change. It was put back in the states by the Supreme Court. That has been upheld. It doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon, especially because now Donald Trump will get to pick 2 new justices, presuming that Alito and presuming that Clarence Thomas both resign at some point or retire at some point during his presidency. It's not going to change anytime soon. That being said, they're not saying they're going to get rid of abortion. They're not saying they're going to roll back women's rights in any way. I mean, none of this stuff has been promised. And in fact, I would say that Donald Trump, and this I echo John Ziegler, is a friend of the show over at the Death of Journalism podcast. Donald Trump can really rub it in the Democrats' eyes for being lying, fear-mongering idiots by getting out there and guaranteeing that nothing is going to change under his administration. And as I mentioned, he's already making history by putting the first, I think her name was Susan Wiles, the first woman as a chief of staff in the White House. Opportunities abound. But what's so funny about this, these women losing their minds and shaving their heads, is just the practical idiocy of it. You're telling me, ladies, for 4 years, you're going to deny your husband sex, the same husband who has shaved your head for this stupid video. I'm going to guess, unless there's secret proof that you have as a lady in a hyper-progressive household who's lost her mind enough to shave her head on TikTok, I'm going to guess that one of 2 things is already not happening. Number one, I'm guessing that he does not have sex with you often. Probably half of this is because he doesn't want to, and half of it's because you don't want to have sex with him as a weak individual. That's probably already happening. So you saying you're not going to have sex with men in general, maybe you're really punishing his boyfriend. I hate to use this stereotype, but it makes sense in this situation of the beta male and being the cuckold. So she's clearly punishing whoever has been banging her in front of her husband, right? Right. So this poor man is getting the brunt of this. So number one, you're not punishing anybody that's already on your side in your household. It's just stupid. Number 2, you're shaving your head, saying you're not going to have sex with people for 4 years. There's no way you're going to go through with it. There's no chance you're going to go through with it. And as we said, you're not punishing people, because I'm going to guess that none of these liberal crazies, none of these loonies who are out there, none of the chicks that are screaming at the sky or losing their minds in their car, none of them are going to go and bang conservative dudes anyway. If you're capable of this type of reaction, you are not going to be banging a conservative dude. Thus, the only people you're punishing are the people that are already on your side. The people that believe this crap, the people that are cheering you on, and that, of course, as most feminist men tend to be, at least most outwardly, overly feminist, making YouTube channels about it. I consider myself a feminist, and I happen to be just a regular old libertarian dude with 2 daughters and a wife who I support. I'm not out there talking about how women's rights are under attack, because they're not. And then, of course, sliding in there, hey, you that creep. Oh, yeah, these men are terrible. And then trying to, diddle you when you're crying in a bathroom somewhere, which is usually how these things work out with feminists. Or, of course, provably, by the way, accused of all sorts of sexual misdeeds, of all sorts of inappropriate touching when it comes down to it, because it's all a grift by these guys who are too weak to go out there and just be themselves. They have to go and grift on the feminist side of things and then attack when people are weak. It's pathetic. Keep shaving your heads, ladies. Keep doing it. It goes right hand in hand with what's going on with these liberal nut jobs that have also said, we're going to wear masks again. Yeah, put on all the masks. Hey, Brian McWilliams here. He was just on Monday's show. Yeah, it goes hand in hand with the nutbags who are going to wear masks around. Good. Punish yourself. All you're doing is punishing yourself and proving to people how broken the politics are, how broken the media is, how broken your brains are, and how you have no legitimate sounding board in your life because you have cut them out. Like anybody who's shaving their head in this manner, anybody that's going to go wear a mask around like a jerk off because Donald Trump won, is doing one of 2 things, right? The mask people, number one, they are proving that they're psychos, but also they're proving that the first time they wore masks around, they knew they didn't work. This is during COVID. They knew it was a gesture of protest against what was happening with Trump. They knew it was a protest against anybody that's a conservative, and that liberals were united in the streets looking like assholes and helping to shut down society. These nutbag women, similar to the liberals during COVID, they've cut sounding boards out. They've intentionally and divisively eliminated anybody that would say, hey, take a step back. You don't live in reality. Take a step back. Think about what you're doing before you shave your head, and you're going to regret it in a few months when all the stuff you've been promised was going to happen doesn't happen. Nothing is going to come for you. Nobody's going to gulag you in the night. They're not going to, even though there's arguments for it, they're not going to repeal women's rights to vote. They're not going to somehow administer some sort of magical impregnation device to make sure that every woman that doesn't want to have children gets pregnant and then deny them abortions. Like, I don't even know what sort of maniacal fantasies these people have about what is coming for them. But the problem is they've been lied to so thoroughly by their friends, their media, and the DNC. And we're seeing the fallout of that, by the way, with specifically liberal podcasters, liberal influencers, and the mainstream media. I mean, there's been videos going around from people that have 400, 500,000 subscriptions on their YouTube channels saying how they've lost hundreds of thousands of subscribers overnight. Now, the question is, were a lot of those subscribers bought and paid for by, let's say, Kamala Harris's campaign, because just buying clicks to boost the content they want? I hate to break it to you guys, it's very hard organically to get any views anymore. It's one of the dirty little secrets of the online community, but it's very hard to go viral. It's hard to get viewership without buying and paying for clicks. It's a system that's set up for people that have money to basically push through their content. Well, Kamala Harris's campaign, as far as what I saw data-wise, collected something like $1.7 billion. Now, that's not just her campaign. That's including super PACs and everything else. But her campaign's $20 billion in debt. They spent over $1 billion. Democrats looked around going, what the F? I mean, Al Sharpton apparently got paid $500,000 for his endorsement. Beyonce got paid $2 million to show up and not perform. Are we to think that maybe these asshole liberal podcasters and YouTubers didn't benefit from Kamala Harris's campaign throwing $10, $20, $30, $40,000 at them to boost their subscriber numbers in order to boost the visibility online, since they were towing the line for her? I mean, it certainly would make sense. If I'm a campaign, I would do it. Why not? So, and also, on Twitter, on X, on all these other social platforms, you can buy bots. They're out there in droves. We see them happening. Anytime you complain about something that was against the liberal orthodoxy, you would get inundated by bots. It would happen to me constantly. So yeah, a lot of those subscribers were probably nonsense. You add on top of that the fact that these people are watching mainstream media as well, give them a false bill of goods. And the mainstream media, because they are in the bag for the Democrats, they don't question when the Harris campaign tells them that it's so close, that there's, oh yeah, we're going to win. We're keeping this thing tight. Oh yeah, watch what happens. It's a margin of error. No, they got blown out. They got the doors blown off them. They had to have known. I'm sorry. I talked about this last episode. There is no way the Harris campaign, with all the polling data that's out there and available, with all the, again, I'm not saying polling's perfect, but this is now the third time around with Donald Trump versus a liberal opponent. You should be able to adjust somewhat for the differences in polling and outcome and people, speaking their truth versus what they're going to tell pollsters. They got destroyed. And the media didn't question that. There's been Democrat operatives that actually have gone on shows now and said, we're furious because they went out, raised money for this campaign because Harris's campaign told them, oh yeah, we're right there. It's a coin flip. We're right there. We need more money, more money, more money. And it's just parroted out there. These people leave them. And now they feel they've been totally lied to, because they have. Just like the DNC lies about, you can see it happen. You see all the compilation videos, right? The DNC lies to the mainstream media about a narrative they want to push. That then gets parroted. Look at the Project 2025 garbage that they put out there with Trump. I mean, everything in regards to COVID, everything in regards to horse paste, just the parroting verbatim of DNC talking points. Now, this has led to an epic amount of distrust in mainstream media. Polling now, at least the last round, I can't wait to see the next round of polling, had 71% of people having a distrust of the media. I can't wait to see what that is coming out, because why would you trust anything the media said when they were catastrophically wrong in their predictions, especially when it came to this political outcome? I mean, MSNBC right now is seeing massive drops in audience. CNN, massive drops in audience. We're talking hundreds of thousands per episode. CNN's now talking about firing their mainstream staff. I mean, Anderson Cooper could be out on his ass. That's what we're talking about. Don Lemon was a precursor. He was a canary in the coal mine. CNN is on the ropes. MSNBC is on the ropes because there's nothing to believe there. Look at this latest interaction that just happened on CNN with, again, this idiot host, Abby something or other. She's the one that recently got into a tiff with like a conservative commentator on there. And he had basically said, to one of the left-wing commenters who happens to be, I think, Pakistani American or something like that he better watch his pager when the guy was talking about Israel. It was an innocent joke. Ryan, I'm blanking on his name, doesn't really matter. But you see this woman just recently got into it with yet another, and this is a black commentator from the Republican side, about trans kids and how he's making a simple point that trans kids are a problem when it comes to the mainstream population. They don't want to accept boys that identify as girls playing in girls' sports. Very simple. Democrats, Republicans, libertarians, everybody pretty much unanimously agrees on this. It's dangerous. It's taking opportunities away. It's just not fair. So, of course, the panel loses their minds on it. This guy's just like, I'm just telling you like it is. And they're telling him that he's transphobic for calling the boys that are genetic boys girls. They're calling them boys instead of saying that they're girls. And one of the assholes on the panel is going, they're girls. They're girls. No, they're not girls. No, they're not girls. I'm sorry. That's another policy position Donald Trump, by the way, voiced. So we'll get into a little bit of that later. But obviously, you're going to see a complete fallout once the grift is exposed. And that's what this is. Why are you going to watch? Especially you were lied to get all excited on your election day or election night. You're watching MSNBC and they're going, oh, well, it's going to be close. Don't worry, the blue wall. The votes are still coming in. Nope. You got bent over. You got bent over. You were ball gag in mouth, Pulp Fiction style in the basement, sitting next to Ving Rhames as a guy with a samurai sword plowed you from behind. You got bent over. And the people of America, especially liberals, feel like they got taken advantage of, and they're right. The question is, are these people going to wake up? I mean, a lot of black men certainly woke up the last time around and decided that they were going to vote for Donald Trump. They're waking up to the lies the Democrat Party pushes forward, the fact that welfare is essentially one giant cage for them. You're seeing a lot of young Latino men also went heavily Trump. I think I'm hearing some stuff like 70% in one county of Latino men went for Donald Trump. It's all coming home to roost. And a lot of that definitely has to do with the stark contrast between more general, honest commentators like a Joe Rogan, for example, or like yours truly, trying to give you their best take, honestly, rather than trying to push a straight agenda or straight narrative and asking questions and talking about the real facts of the matter and what's obvious on the ground, rather than selling you an absolute fantasy, which is what the mainstream media and what the Democrats have been doing for absolutely decades. So, rotten hell, CNN, rotten hell, MSNBC. It's wonderful to see. Okay, so moving on, different topic. I wanted to talk a little bit more about, hold on, I got my little notes over here. Kamala Harris and another recent trend, tying into this whole women be getting crushed and we got to do something about it, damn it. There was a movement And I saw this trending. I saw numerous people, again, on where? CNN, MSNBC, and I think even some Democrat operatives talking about one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard in my life, which is that Joe Biden should resign now so that Kamala Harris would be the first female president. Now, number one, I don't think Joe Biden likes Kamala Harris. I think he picked her because it was politically expedient, because he said he was going to pick her. He basically painted himself in the corner saying he was going to pick a black woman for his vice president, and Kamala Harris just happened to be there, right? Kamala just always happens to be there. She was probably hiding under Joe's desk, to be honest, with her mouth open. But he picks her. Now he's saddled with this albatross, and during her entire spate as vice president, that's what she was. An albatross that couldn't get anything done. She failed at every task she was given. And when called upon to speak, made it very obvious that she had nothing to say of relevance or intelligence. The Democrat establishment then goes hand in hand with Nancy Pelosi, who has been out there still blaming Joe Biden, hilariously, for the bending over that we just watched happen. So Kamala Harris completely, I'm sure, was complicit in what the Democrats did to Joe in undermining democracy and shoving her down everybody's throats when nobody wanted her ever. No one has ever wanted Kamala Harris. Joe Biden, I'm sure, doesn't like Kamala Harris one bit. So to say that he should step down and resign to gift her for no good reason, and once again, with no votes cast, to gift her the mantle of a historic presidency, that of the first female president, why would Joe do that? I mean, let's be completely honest. Why would Joe give that honor to somebody that became a rival, a backstabber, that couldn't go out of her way to try to defend him during the process, because clearly she wanted the position that she was put in? Of course, Joe's going to be elated. I mean, you can even kind of see that when he was talking about, like it was like the post-election announcement. It was like the happiest Joe you can see. I'm sure he's cackling in his Joe den, again, as they're pumping him full of whatever he has to get through the day with. So there's no chance of that happening. But then on top of that, to say Kamala Harris should be shoehorned into this position, what an affront to everyday Americans, what an affront to women, what an affront to talented women who may have a chance to actually make a real presidential run, actually be selected in a candidacy process and in primaries, and prove their worth and their mettle. No. Let's instead just derp it up in a publicity stunt. I mean, there's no way in hell anybody would view it as anything but that, right? Like, why would you think that that's a good idea? Hey, guys, so we got our asses handed to us in this election. We're just going to give it to her for the headlines, for the alls, the lols, I should say, not the alls. In any history book, there would be 16 asterisks next to it saying this was basically a joke. This was a pity party. We gave her a consolation. Everybody gets a purple ribbon for playing prize because she couldn't hack it, and because they got trounced, and because we happen to be a situation where the current president is so addled in his brain that we think that we can make him do this. It's fucking stupid. It's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my life. And frankly, the fact that so many people got behind it shows you more thoroughly that they don't understand the position that they're in. I mean, I got to think even Democrats would be like, this is insultingly stupid. Absolutely not. We can't go along with it. But these people that are still apparently in charge of the DNC and that are still considered elites in that party, they're floating it out there. They don't put the dots together that people are sick of this race baiting bullshit, that people don't care that Kamala is a black woman, and that's not why they voted against her to begin with. And frankly, if you did it just to make her the first black female president, they're going to be pretty pissed off about it because they're sick of this shit. It's another reason MSNBC and CNN are failing. It polls terribly across the board. Nobody wants trans kids, competing with male and female. Everybody's sick of hearing about it. Nobody wants DEI stuff. There's a reason that, not Corey DeAngelo. Who's the guy that's not Charlie Kirk either? Blank on his name, but this fighter for anti-DEI that's getting all these companies to get rid of their DEI departments. Thank God, companies wasting millions, sometimes billions of dollars on DEI initiatives. Focus on your core business. Nobody cares about this DEI crap. It's everything worse. So the Democrats, they just don't get it. Part of me hopes that they never get it, because if there's going to be hope for third parties, if there's going to be hope for the Libertarian Party to continue to get influence, we need people that are on the Democrat side to come over and say, you know what, I may not want to be GOP, so there's got to be an in-between for me. And I'm hoping that that's going to be us, especially as we give people something more to believe in. And, Angela McArdle, our chair, she is in touch with the Trump administration. She's been talking to them. She thinks that it's going to be more of a domestic, inward-looking appointment, because Trump has committed to a libertarian being in the cabinet. I'm still hoping that's a Ron Paul. I'm still hoping that it's, maybe a Thomas Massie, even though Thomas Massey is not technically a libertarian. Of course, he is the most libertarian person that's in the, let's say, in the House or the Senate. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. The downside, of course, is if we're focused domestically on a libertarian position there, that means that what we'd love to see, which is something like a Secretary of State, is not going to be a libertarian. And let me bring up a list here. And these have been coming hot and heavy, right? I mean, goddamn. I've seen over the last couple of days, I have seen so many appointments come in so fast. It's really difficult to keep up with. So as far as Trump appointing people to the cabinet, policy positions, it seems like he's putting out a video upon video upon video on Twitter talking about policy positions. And I'd say so far I'm about 50-50 on them. Of course, I lost the email. Here we go. Okay, so let me start it down. Okay, so we've got Fox News host and veteran Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. That's one where I don't know. I have not had a chance to really look into this guy. He seems like the one thing I've heard about him is that he's against women in combat roles, which frankly, I could definitely understand and get behind just from a practical position. You're talking about lowering standards, and I complained about this before. As a guy that's not even very militaristically inclined, and I think that our military needs to be a lot more powerful and a lot more restrained, nothing about lowering standards for combat so that women could get into combat roles makes sense. That just, it makes everybody less safe. It means that you have to move slower. It means that the men probably have to carry heavier gear because the women aren't able to carry as much stuff. None of it makes sense at all. So I don't know. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, Kristi Noem as Secretary of Homeland Security. She's been, I guess, obviously during COVID was good, so I appreciate that. Apparently, she is very forward-looking when it comes to taking on the illegal immigration issues. So I think that's where that ties in with Trump's position there. John Ratcliffe as a CIA director. He's former director of national intelligence. I just saw that Tulsi Gabbard, who I would prefer for Secretary of State, and we'll talk about little Marco Rubio in a second, she is apparently up for the director of national intelligence position, which is interesting because obviously that ties into the military. It ties into freedom of speech issues, which she's good on. So that's one to look at. John Ratcliffe, he seems to be a guy that had objected to the FBI getting involved with Trump as far as investigations, as far as the horse shit efforts they tried to make to undermine and basically utilize the investigative systems of the United States to target a political opponent. So makes sense there. Of course, also being a former director of national intelligence under Trump helps. Stephen Witkoff, special envoy to the Middle East. I don't know, whatever. Mike Huckabee, super uber Christian and clearly friend of Israel. Not a surprise there. And we also had Elise Stefanik. She has been named to I think, the head of the UN, right? That's who he wants to put her as ambassador to the UN. So she's also a very, very strong supporter of Israel. This is not surprising. And none of us thought that Donald Trump was going to be somehow questioning, reining in our support to Israel in any way. He didn't campaign on it. I don't think there's anything that's going to change it. He's always been a honk for Israel. He always will be a honk for Israel. And none of these appointments are going to change anything. It's just not surprising to say. The one that is surprising is little Marco Rubio. Of course, Marco Rubio, he dovetails right in, though, with a honk for Israel, a anti-Iran war hawk, which is very aggravating to see. So that's where one has to hope that Donald Trump's, I think, natural objections to starting new wars hopefully will supersede idiots like Marco Rubio, former idiots involved like John Bolton's or the Stefaniks out there, or some of the more war hawky. And Stefanik, by the way, was also employed by several high-level, very Republican, traditional neocon think tanks, one which was ran by Bill Kristol, just kind of the worst of the worst. But as we've seen in the past, Trump, he committed, and again, this is something he'd said at the National Convention for the Libertarian Party, he is committed, I think, to peace. I think he's very wary of entering into wars, especially one with Iran, which we know can explode. He has committed to ending the funding for Ukraine and reining that war and helping to make a peace process. Great. So I just don't know. It's very, I mean, when it comes to these appointments, it's a little bit of a schizophrenic approach. And maybe that's intentional for Trump. Maybe he's trying to get different voices in his cabinet, but I don't know. We'll see how it works out. The one that I do love, of course, is Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk. They've been tapped to head the new Department of Government Efficiency. Elon Musk could be a complete game changer when it comes to and also Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, Ramaswamy, give him a lot of credit. When he was out running, people questioned his libertarian bona fides. He had said, look, I was a former libertarian. Now now I still have very strong libertarian values, but I'm a Republican. Great. But he had concrete plans to destroy a lot of these government entities, to rein in the spending, to reallocate what he couldn't slash, right, in regards to the government, to utilize ways to get around all these civil service protections. And Section F, which is Trump's effort to destroy the nonsense barriers to being fired that people in civil service have created for themselves in this nepotistic protectionist process that the government does, and which is why you saw 97% of people that work for the government vote for fucking Democrats. But Ramaswamy has concrete plans on how to create the maneuvers to eliminate large sections of government, and for those he can't get rid of, or those that have to be moved around in certain way, shape, or form, he has a plan for that. So to see him work with Elon Musk is going to be fantastic, because Musk might be coming this from, number one, I'm taking it over, I'm doing Twitter style and eradicating 70%. And I've already seen articles about government sector employees basically saying we're bracing for massive layoffs. Please, God, make it happen. But Musk may have completely different designs on how the government can operate, different levels of efficiency, different ways of government operation that we haven't even thought of before. I mean, the guy, for fuck's sake, really does go about the way in which he runs his businesses, the way he thinks about the future, the way that things have always been done, and says, well, why are we doing it that way when this way, as improbable as it might seem, is way better? Trump went on and on during his acceptance speech about watching Elon Musk's rocket get caught with this clamp arm thing. And yeah, it's pretty damn impressive. So if Musk is dedicated to it, and I'm sure he is, because a lot of it actually does help him in general with his businesses, tearing down regulatory environments, tearing down agencies, that's great. I mean, Donald Trump also has committed to eradicating the Department of Education. This is something that he had said recently as well. He had said that to the LNC. Yeah, get rid of it. It's one of the worst government organizations. It has done nothing but destroy and I would say, not only take away power from state by state control over education, which I do think is important, but just as far as the amount of money spent for the return on that investment, it's up there with welfare spending. It's up there with, our war spending as far as clear failures on every single metric, every single possible metric. It's an absolute failure. And during COVID, that failure became even more pronounced. And now we're coming back with what? What do we like the 34th ranked educational system in the world? We used to be number one when it was state by state. Jimmy Carter fucks everything up. And now you've got Democrats losing their minds, fighting tooth and nail to what? Keep a failed system in there. I mean, is there anything more indicative of the democratic thought process, a progressive thought process, than we only know how this thing is done? We've been told getting rid of it would be bad by who? Teachers unions and the media, right? And bought and paid for Democrats who rely on teachers unions and teacher support and donations. We've been told by these people that have a clear vested interest in the system because they've been building it up, propping it up, and benefiting from it financially and politically for decades. Well, they've told us it would be bad to change, so we got to believe them. Just fucking idiots. So that's pretty awesome. And then, well, that's about it for now. We'll see who else is coming forward. It's literally every day all this new shit gets dropped on us, so it's very hard to keep track. As a policy side of things, Trump has gone on to say he wants to embed in essentially legal terms that you can only have male and female on birth certificates. That is something I'm 1000% for. I think that his approach to college educations, he was recently talking about how the government will get involved in eradicating racist admission processes. Yes, please. That would be wonderful. He was talking about, again, Department of Education. He was talking about, God, I'm trying to think. All these different Twitter things. I don't know. That's as many as I can think off the top of my head. The question with all this, is how easy this is going to be to pass. And as of this time, it seems the House and the Senate have both been confirmed. I know there was some up in the air about the House, but it looks like things are now going to be essentially cemented where he's going to have control of both. If you do, it's going to be telling to see if the Republicans go along with it, because I would argue that Trump has, yes, it essentially a mandate to change these things when it comes to the trans issues, when it comes to DEI issues, when it comes to the cost of living and inflation. He does have a mandate from the nation to fix it. When it comes to the border, he has a mandate from the nation to fix it. Even Democrats were concerned about immigration. And as we saw, even in border towns, the Democrats, the media, they were told, well, we're going to come after your abuela, right? That was what they're saying. I literally have friends of mine that were close. They were freaking out. Friends that have been legal citizens here in the United States, worried that they're going to get deported. And none of that's going to happen. But it is a huge concern when you do have gang members, when you have, unfettered immigration coming over here, when you have the costs of paying for this. New York City is a perfect example, and all these sanctuary cities, LA, the costs of supporting immigration at this point. It's going to be a huge issue and people want it addressed. Now, what they don't tell you is that under Joe Biden, you had immigration massively explode because they basically said, we're not going to do shit about it. The secret is that Donald Trump, yes, I'm sure he'll make efforts to deport that some of the illegals that are here. Probably, I'm sure he'll target people that are violent and have criminal records and that have been caught and released, and that they're first on the list. What nobody's talking about is that once you have a change in policy, once there is a commitment to this, half of those people, maybe more, are just going to leave on their own. This has happened in the past. It will happen again. It's probably already happening. If you look at the numbers of immigrants in the United States, I guarantee you're going to see multiple millions that have left on their own because they know the gravy train's over. They know they're being cracked down on, and they know that the system is now being altered and hopefully altered for good. So all these people that are worried about, he's coming after this and that. The secret is most of the people you want gone are already going to be gone. And if they're not gone already, once it does start to happen, they're going to get incentivized to get the fuck out of here before they happen to be arrested. They happen to be, thrown in jail and processed and all this other shit. They're just going to head out on their own. So there you have it. Okay. Last couple things. I'm going to wrap this here up. I did want to talk about one more thing, which is, two more things. The coping and the seething from the liberal media and from Democrats on this has been pathetic. Pathetic. It's not racism. It's not sexism. That's not why Americans decided to vote for Donald Trump. They just don't seem to understand, at least the people at the elite level of this, they don't seem to understand what went on. They don't seem to understand that the Democrats have been losing America for the last 5 to 10 years with these insane policies. They don't understand that economics is the first and only driver for most people. If your cost of living at your grocery store is 3 times what it was, and you're really struggling and the economy's shit and you can't find a fucking job, even if you keep applying and applying and applying, we have a problem. Democrats want to tell you that our problem is that America is a racist nation. And it's not. It hasn't been for quite some time. Americans just, I think, legitimately are coming around more to the way we used to be, where you just really want to be left alone. You want to be able to make money. You want to be able to talk to people and not be on eggshells. Justine Bateman had a great post about this recently. She is, of course, a Hollywood actress. She was progressive for sure in her policies, but she had posted that after the last 4 years, she feels relieved. A Hollywood actress feels relieved that she no longer has to walk on eggshells, that she can actually talk and not feel like she's going to be canceled by the changing tides of what you can and can't say on any given day in regards to, Democrat policy Y on trans kid X, or having an abortion here or there and everywhere, whatever it might be. There's a million different ways in which you can get canceled now by the left. And the fact that this was, without a doubt, people in general standing up and saying, we're sick of it. We don't want it anymore. We just want to live our lives and be left alone. And fuck you for putting us through this. That's what led to Donald Trump getting into office. Economics, immigration, and people just wanting sanity again. And it is funny that Donald Trump, of all people, is the guy that we're tapping to bring sanity back. But that goes to show you just how crazy the left has gotten. Absolutely batshit crazy. And then one more thing. Fuck Chase Oliver, the Libertarian candidate for president. Having worked for the obviously not for the campaign, but having worked for the Libertarian Party all through this, I will reiterate why Chase Oliver had record low turnout, or maybe not record low, but very low turnout for us. He's whining and complaining. Did an interview with Reason Magazine that really pissed me off, where he had said, well, instead of acknowledging the reality of the situation, that he was a candidate that was very polarizing during a time when Donald Trump made very concerted efforts to basically come to the Libertarian Party, give us realistic goals, which he would meet if he got to presidency, right? Free Ross Ulbricht, destroy the Department of Education, and put a Libertarian in his cabinet. If any one of those 3 things happens, that's the greatest achievement the Libertarian Party has gotten in politics ever. Donald Trump certainly looks like he had a chance to win, and he did. So what does Chase Oliver do? Chase is go out there, and then instead of acknowledging that he had policies that without a doubt drove a lot of libertarians away, these were on COVID policy, on vaccinations, on state involvement with medicalization of children, specifically trans kids. That really pissed a lot of libertarians off. And you combine that with a election cycle, which was literally the most important of a lifetime to many people. And I believe myself, I count myself in this. I believe it is. I believe it was. And that America was definitively going to go down a path where we may never recover, versus a path where we could possibly eradicate a lot of the things that have really been diseases for the society, from a government level, from a cultural level. So this jerk off, instead of acknowledging that and acknowledging the fact that the Libertarian Party put out more emails, more, social media posts, more than his campaign did. And I've heard this from people directly, that they didn't hear shit from the Chase campaign. They heard more about Chase from us than from him. The campaign he ran wasn't great. The content they were putting out there was hard for us to use and repurpose. We had to, create our own content. They weren't posting enough content. They weren't getting enough emails out there. They wouldn't do it. And for him to say in Reason Magazine that LP National not giving him support is what somehow led to this underwhelming performance. Fuck that guy. And now he's saying he wants to get more involved and, he's going to be a leader in the party. No, thank you. No, thank you, dickhead. All right, guys, that's it. From me, Brian McWilliams, from the Lions Liberty Network, and from Mean Age Daydream, I want to thank you for tuning in. Remember, you can support us on Patreon. You can support us on Locals. And also, guys, don't forget, I've got another comedy show. We're actually doing a live show of that tonight, the first episode podcast. By then, my Twitter will be unsuspended from telling Robert Reich to crawl into a hole and die. Apparently, that gets you 7 days suspension on Twitter. That'll be back up. So you will be able to follow along with my my show on Twitter, or you can go and listen to the podcast live on Rumble as well. We're on YouTube. Find it. You're going to love it. We're doing Peep Show, which is one of the funniest British comedies you will ever see. It's kind of like Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but for the Brits. And also, we're going to be doing the new Are You Smarter Than a Celebrity, featuring the very hateable Travis Kelce. So we will be reviewing that. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to check out the New American Media. Brian Engelman's been in our chat here and also just was on with John Odermatt on Finding Freedom on Monday. All right. Peace out, guys. Better days ahead. Later.